Okay, for my online English 12 class, I am doing a YouTube video of me explaining ethos, pathos, and logos in the article A Change of Heart About Animals by Jeremy Rifkin. And the first two things I'm going to identify are ethos. And the author uses two pictures. In the entire article, he uses two different pictures. And the pictures correlate with what he's explaining in his article and what he's trying to convince the reader of believing in. So the first picture he uses is a picture of a group of pigs. So you would believe that, oh, it's just a group of pigs, it doesn't really matter. But the author is showing that there was a study done by McDonald's at Purdue University saying that that they have found that pigs crave affection and are easily depressed if isolated or denied playtime with each other. The lack of mental and physical stimuli can result in deterioration of health. So it's saying that pigs need to be together, and they've done a study, and they're showing you a picture. So you're not just reading words, you're looking at a picture, and you're thinking, oh, the pigs are together, and they seem happy. Like, they don't seem stressed out, or something's bugging them. And the second one is the author uses a picture of a crow, and it's just not no ordinary crow. He talks about Oxford University reporting that two birds named Betty and Abel were given a choice between two wires. One was straight, and one was a hook shape. And they were trying to use. They have to use the wire to get a piece of meat out of a small plastic tube. And they both chose the hooked wire, but Abel, who is the dominant male, and being dominant, he's more aggressive and gets the first decision, took Betty's hooked wire, leaving her only with a straight wire. But Betty, being a very smart bird, and the author trying to show us that birds have high intellect and we can't take that for granted, is she uses her beak to wedge the straight wire into a crack and bent it with her beak to produce a hook. So she makes a hook from the wire that she was stuck with. So the author shows the picture of the bird using the hook, and to show the people reading the article that, oh, that's the bird, smart bird. Like, that's because ethos is example of like modern translation of using an image. So the author is using an image to not only make the article seem more interesting, but provide more information and relate to that whole ethos aspect. So the author also uses logos, and logos is a persuasive strategy that appeals to the character of the speaker or to the emotions of the audience. So, but it involves logic and rationality. Basically, something that is said that's logic and rationality, not just like an emotion, like opinion. You know, that would be that would fall under pathos. So, the author uses logos in the article when he talks about the actual studies. Like, he's saying that after the study of the pig was done, the European Union has taken such studies to heart and outlawed the use of isolating pig stalls by 2012. In Germany, the government is encouraging pig farmers to give each pig 20 seconds of human contact each day and to provide them with toys to prevent them from fighting. So the author is giving us this little bit of information that falls under the logos because it's logic and it's rationality, and it's showing like what has this article caused and what this study is actually true, and he has information to back that up. And he does that again with the crows, and he talks about not just the crows, but he also talks about researchers repeating the experiment, and Betty's still making the straight wire into a hook like 9 out of 10 times. So 90% chance that she's going to make a wired hook. So that shows her intellect, and that shows that it wasn't just a lucky decision, like it was actually meant to be done by her. And that shows logos because it's logic and rationality that the bird is using. So, and then the two examples of pathos, which is decisions not based off rational thought, but based off emotions such as anger, pity, fear, and their opposites, powerfully influence our rational judgments. So it's thinking at a more rational, it is rational, but it's more emotional, on the emotional side of rational. So they talk about the gorilla, Coco, who's 300-pound gorilla at the Gorilla Foundation in Northern California. He was taught sign language and has mastered more than 1,000 signs and understands several thousand English words. And that falls under emotion because it's kind of difficult to get a gorilla to do something like that. So they have to use their emotions, the people training, and she's scored very good, a high IQ test on between 70 and 95, so she has a high intellect just like the bird and just like the pigs. Like, the author is still trying to show us that something as scary as a 300-pound gorilla can, through help and emotions and people interacting with it, can become smart and has a lot of intellect, has a lot of undiscovered talents that can be unleashed upon things like the English language and sign language, for that matter. So that's one way that the author shows pathos. And the final way that the author shows pathos is when he talks about the elephants. And this is probably one of the most emotional ones, because he basically says, this is a quote from the actual text, it's believed that other animals have no sense of their morality and are unable to comprehend the concept of their own death. So it's basically explaining that animals can't really comprehend the idea of death, and that when someone's, like, unlike humans, we get emotional when someone dies, but animals can't do that. But Rifkin is saying that that's not necessarily so, because animals, it appears, experience grief. Elephants will often stand next to their dead kin for days, occasionally touching their bodies with their trunks. We also know that animals play, especially when young. Recent studies in the brain chemistry of rats show that when they play, their brains release large amounts of dopamine and neurochemical associated with pleasure and excitement. So pleasure and excitement and death and grief, those are all emotions. Those are all things that can be caused by emotion. So the author is explaining pathos, because he's saying that although the studies show that animals do not stand by their dead and they don't understand the concept of death, here's an elephant right here that stands behind, that stays with a dead animal, their dead relative, for days, just sitting there, because they understand, like, it's like kind of like mourning to them, like they're grieving over it. It's like those last few days after someone dies before the funeral, like those 3 days when they're just mourning and sadness and paying their respects, and then after the final day, then they just leave, and the funeral happens and people move on. So that's what elephants do. And then it talks about the rats, who they play. When they play, they have large amounts of dopamine and neurochemicals which associate with pleasure and excitement. So that means that when, just like humans get excited when they go watch a movie and they laugh and they cry and they are happy and they're sad, like, it's all connected with animals. So basically, Rifkin, we don't know this, but he uses all these three things. We don't catch it, but our brains connect those thoughts, and that's how we're emotional. So basically, the article uses two ethos, pathos, and logos in different ways, like with the pictures, and then with actual, like, studies and data and statistics and that kind of stuff. And then it uses pathos with using themes of death and themes of happiness and themes of excitement. So those are the three things that the author Joseph Ridkin uses in his article, The Change of Heart About Animals. Jeremy Rifkin. Thanks.